BamaCentral.com. I'm Joey Blackwell here with Katie Wyndham and Mason Smith, and this is 3 and Out. We got our first look at Alabama football this past weekend as the Crimson Tide rolled right over the Utah State Aggies 55-0. There were a lot of great things that came from the game, but obviously there were some shortcomings as well, and that's what we're here to talk about today. We're going to talk about our takeaways that maybe Alabama could improve on, but maybe also they did well. Katie, we'll start with you. What did you see from this Crimson Tide team this past weekend at Bryant-Denny Stadium?
Yeah, I mean, overall, my takeaways from this game wouldn't be their shortcomings. I mean, it's hard to nitpick about shortcomings after a game like that, but of course, that's what we're here to do. Not talk about things that weren't perfect. The defense in ways, I guess, were perfect when you see that they pitched a shutout, gave up, I think, like 136 or 137 yards. There's not a lot to complain about. I think it's interesting that coming into the season, one of the most hyped up things about this team and this defense was the pass rush, and Alabama didn't record a sack on Saturday, didn't get a ton of quarterback hurries, which, going up against a team like Utah State, I'm sure they weren't drawing up their most elaborate blitz packages and didn't necessarily need to do that. I'm sure Will Anderson would have liked to record a sack. And I don't think we'll see very many other games this year where the Alabama defense does not record a sack. But I think overall, my biggest takeaway is just how dominant the defense was against an opponent that had a pretty good offense last year. It's obviously not the caliber of opponent you're going to see the rest of the season. And just kind of not the lack of a pass rush, but kind of the lack of results from a pass rush that I think we'll see more of moving forward.
Definitely, Katie. And then kind of flipping into the offensive side, I'm really a fan of how the wide receivers performed on this past weekend. Jermaine Burton is a really big target in the red zone. I think he's going to have a lot of touchdown receptions this year. And I also was a really big fan of Kobe Prentice's performance. In his first game from Alabama, he was atop the team leaders and really game leaders in both receptions and receiving yards. So I'm really impressed with him, and also really impressed with the other freshmen that played on Saturday as well, Isaiah Bond and Kendrick Law. I think this is a really deep wide receiver room, and in America, we're going to see that depth come to fruition throughout the season.
Yeah, with considering the depth at wide receiver, you have a running back room that's also has a lot of depth there as well, as we saw this past weekend. But at the same time, one of my takeaways was the ineffectiveness that Alabama's running back room had against Utah State. On the day, they only had one rushing touchdown, which actually wasn't running back. That was Bryce Young scrambling to get that touchdown. But Jahmyr Gibbs, he had 9 carries for 93 yards, which is a 10.3 yard average. But one of those rushes with 58 yards. Jason McClellan had a great day when it cut in terms of being a pass catching back. He had 2 receiving touchdowns, which is, great for him. But I really would like to see some more effectiveness from this running back room for Alabama. They're going to need that. They're going to need to diversify their offense. They can't rely too heavily on the pass. I mean, it's great to have, of course, Bryce Young and the wide receivers there, but if you have to rely on too much, you quickly become one-dimensional, which is something that you don't want to do heading into, SEC play when you have some really tough defenses. But I think they'll be able to turn it around. I think maybe, just kind of shaking off the rust was what we saw in week 1. I think they'll be ready to, get back at it when the game against the Texas Longhorns comes around this weekend. But that'll about do it for BamaCentral.com. I'm Joey Blackwell with Katie Wyndham and Mason Smith. This has been 3 and Out. Thank you so much for watching.